Hello and welcome to my channel. The aim of this channel is to help you clear the competitive exams. Competitive exams like CAT, MAT, IELTS, PTE, JIPMER, etc. I hope it'll help you a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, everyone wants to know how to speak English in a polished and a sophisticated manner. Try using phrasal verbs in the place of normal verbs. Actually, we use a lot of verbs and phrasal verbs in our everyday communication. Most of the time, we are not aware that we are making use of these verbs. So let us understand what are phrasal verbs. It is a combination of a verb and an adverb or a preposition. In some cases, it is a combination of all the three parts of speech, that is a verb, adverb, and preposition. Now, parts of speech, they have different functions. They play the role of the verb when they are put together. They can also act as a phrase, and that is why these verbs are called phrasal verbs. Simple, right? All right. Now, how many types of phrasal verbs do we have? We have transitive phrasal verbs, we have intransitive phrasal verbs, we have separable phrasal verbs, and we have inseparable phrasal verbs. Let us understand each. Transitive phrasal verbs. Now, they are just like normal transitive verbs. A transitive phrasal verb can be identified by its demand for an object. It has to have an object. Now, it was not possible for Stephen. Now, what? What was not possible for Stephen? So, to get away with all the miseries. This is how it completes the sentence. Kindly fill in. What? The required details for the screening process. Now, let us understand intransitive phrasal verbs. Intransitive phrasal verbs behave exactly like intransitive verbs. They do not require an object to complete the sentence. They are used in or make sense of the context. For example, my car broke down all of a sudden while driving. Well, if I would say my car broke down in itself is a complete sentence. We do not need this extra information, but this extra information is to tell you that, yeah, okay, my car broke down all of a sudden while driving. Okay. Similarly, it has been years since we met. This is a complete sentence altogether. This is an extra information. We should definitely catch up. Okay. Now, let us understand separable phrasal verbs. Separable phrasal verbs include transitive phrasal verbs which have the characteristic property of separating the phrasal verb with the object in between. Now, to note, a word order should be taken into account when separating the phrasal verb. Let us see. He is a very generous person who holds nothing against anyone. The boss is asking for the documents. Can you please hand it over to him? Here, when I say a word order should be taken into account when separating the phrasal verb. So here, holds against can be separated with nothing. It is separated with nothing. Here, hand over is a phrasal verb and it is separated with it. Next, inseparable phrasal verbs. Inseparable phrasal verbs, as the name suggests, cannot be separated from each other and have to be used together no matter what. For example, he was accounted for all the losses in the company. Now, accounted for has to be used together. Account for has to be used together. According to the tense, we can change the form, but these two phrasal verb has to be used together. Next, we had to check out of the hotel before 9 p.m. on Tuesday. Now, this has to be used together. It cannot be separated. Now, how to use phrasal verbs? Conjugating phrasal verbs and using the right word order. These are the two ways that we can use the phrasal verb. Let us understand how to conjugate phrasal verbs. When the phrasal verb is used as a main verb, you have to conjugate the verb alone according to the respective tense and not change the preposition in the phrasal verb. For example, Martin dropped out of school due to his illness. Now, drop out is a phrasal verb, but according to the tense, we have changed the verb here and not the preposition. Similarly, I had broken up with my boyfriend last month. Now, break up is a phrasal verb, but according to the action happened, we can change the verb over here without changing the preposition. Next, the security guard asked around the whole building to know whose car was parked right in front of the gate. Ask around is a phrasal verb. So, according to the action happened, we can change the verb form without changing the preposition. I hung out with my friends after the meeting. Hang out is changed into hung out. Now, keep in mind that irregular verbs take the same spellings as they do when used as normal verbs conjugated in the different forms. Let us understand using the right word order. The transitive, intransitive phrasal verbs and inseparable phrasal verbs have to be used together. The verb and the participle or the preposition should go next to each other. But with separable phrasal verbs, it is different. They are transitive and always have direct object to complete them. You can separate the phrasal verb by putting the direct object in between the verb and the preposition. Let us see some example. My son let me down by misbehaving in front of my guests. So let me down is used together. Some phrasal verbs will always require to be separated by the direct object in between. For example, it is fun to have you around. So we have separated the phrasal verb over here. When noun phrases act as the object, it can also be placed in between the verb and the preposition. For example, he was asked to leave all of it out for approval. Now, leave out is a phrasal verb and it can be separated in this form. Multiple words used in phrasal verb have different meanings individually and have a completely different meaning when used together. Let us take an example of the phrasal verb give up. The combination of a verb give and a preposition up. The phrasal verb give up can be conjugated to represent the different verb forms in English. Supposing if we use it in simple past form, it will be used as gave up. So, the captain gave up at the last quarter or at the last moment. If we use it in infinitive form, it was not easy for the coach to give up trying to encourage the team even in such a hopeless situation. In the gerund form, giving up is not the solution to the problem, it is just the easiest choice. In the form of past participle, I have given up on them. So, this is the rule for phrasal verbs. In my next video, I will come up with examples of the phrasal verbs. Till then, practice. Thank you.